Welcome back, everybody, to another week of the European Tour Picks and Bets. This is Skylar Hoke here with Tom Jacobs, and this is a special one, folks, because for the first time of the 2021 season, we have had top 20s, we have had top 10s, we've had the each ways hit. But John Catlin came through for us last week, 71 winner, a roller coaster of a playoff, I would say, where he saved himself a few times. Kiefer made some long birdies to stay alive, and then it was a splash, and then another splash, and one more splash. On the fifth playoff hole, John Catlin got in for the victory. So it's a nice Monday to kick that off. Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm glad that you got the win because my picks were dreadful last week. And as it has been for a lot of this year, you've been carrying me. And not only did John Catlin win, but Austin Batista as well is in seventh place. So you were bang on the money last week. So all I would say to everybody watching out there is to listen to Sky and, just ignore me this week. And, we'll see.
Hey, we're a team. We ride or die. And, this was another fun week we've had. And again, as we continue to go on, please make sure you rate, review, subscribe to us here on YouTube for the Mayo Media Network. Again, we're delivering every single week for the European Tour. And now we're in a little 3-week, the Gran Canaria Islands swing for Spain, 3 weeks in a row, mixing it up here. This is the first event. I guess they played the 2007 Spanish PGA Championship at this course, but for the Gran Canaria Lopesan Open at Melo Nernis Golf Club. So this course this week is a mere 6,500 yards. So it's going to be a different test of golf. The first 9 holes look to be pretty inland, some mountainous. The island itself is at high elevation, but this is really on the coast. So the first 9 holes will be inland. The second 9 look absolutely stunning being on the coast. The winds look okay for the week, but you know how coastal tracks go, and those things can pick up. There's going to be some large scores in play on those closing holes. So really excited. A new week brings, guessing work into it. Is there anything that you're kind of correlating to these courses, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly looks like it's going to be a tale of two nines. I think the front 9 is going to be, I don't think it's going to be challenging. I think it's a resort golf course, right? So set up a high handicappers anyway. So it's going to be, we could be shooting low 60s, in rounds this week. But I think that the back 9 is certainly going to test a few. I think there's plenty of water in play, as we know. And the winds that are coming in. I mean, I just think of the Oman Open. I think of the Mauritius Open. Both of those. You've got Saudi and Qatar with the Paspalum greens as well. So I think those are good reference points. I think that it's hard because the designer of the golf course has designed the London Club, and he's also designed Gary Player Country Club, which I think you'll come on to later on, which are just completely different tests to this. But, if there is any links, it could just be, we see it all the time, especially on the PGA Tour, Pete Dye design a course, they look nothing like one another. There'll just be subtle sort of hints that players like to see. So, I think that anyone who has forms on these golf courses would certainly stand out to me.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I think the guesswork comes into play, and that's where hopefully you land on it, or you take a little piecemeal and one guy from each type of formula. And hopefully that lands on the specific one you are looking for. And we do see I think a decently stronger field. A few more guys up top. We now have Rosner playing this week, Sullivan, Rafa Cabrera Bello, Zanotti, and Callum Hill have all joined that top group that we had last week. Tom Dietrich did not decide to show up this week after he left himself hanging with an 82 on Sunday, which included a couple par 3 blow-ups. So Dietrich off this week. But you mentioned some course comparisons right off the top. I believe there's a 2-time winner, one at each of those tracks that both of us are starting our card off with that. Tom, I'll kick it to you to sell us on Kurt Kitayama.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's won the Oman Open. He won the Mauritius Open, was his first win. Played well in Saudi Arabia, played well in Qatar. There's nothing really else that needs to be said. I think that the scoring is going to be right in his wheelhouse. I think that he's a guy who's just seen John Catlin win for the 3rd time European Tour. I think that he's going to go on and win more titles yet. The price is slightly shorter than what maybe you'd hope, but it was kind of between him and Sam Horsfield. I think it's a great course for Sam Horsfield as well. I think this kind of resort course, grip it and rip it, not worry about the rough, is perfect for both of their games. I just think that in terms of the exposure on the back nine, I just think the Kitayama has a slight edge, and he's also slightly deeper odds as well. So that was why I went there instead of the Sam Horsfield. I just think he's got the great game for it, and can scramble if he needs to in the wins.
Yep. And I'm in, lockstep with you on that. I think you think of those two wins, you think of what he's done in those type of conditions. If they get wicked on the back nine, his tee to green game right now is just spectacular. 3 weeks in a row, which stopped for the second leg of the Kenya. The three events prior to that, he was either first or second in tee to green. Then somehow he missed the cut for the second leg in Kenya, kind of out of nowhere as basically the favorite in that event. And then he bounced back last week, with another strong performance. His irons weren't as sharp, but his around the green game led the field. So overall, I think, again, his tee to green game in a great spot. And I'm more than okay with the 28. He was 25s in some spots. Again, these fields potentially are stronger, but are they stronger with the best of the European Tour? No, because those guys are still kind of stuck playing the PGA events right now. So, I mean, when Rosner is 11-1 and Rosner, now a two-time winner, two-time winner now after he broke our hearts.
Yeah.
But, I still think there's so much opportunity that I'm not looking at these guys, even Catlin, not saying, man, am I scared of him as I tee it up for betting anybody deeper than that. I think they're like terrific players. But it's nothing that I'm, scared to attack in the outright market. So Kitayama starts it off.
I think there's guys there. You've got Andy Sullivan, who's very volatile. You've got Matthias Schwab, that's unproven, certainly in the mix. You've got, as I said before, Horsfield was a guy I was worried about. Cabrera Bello has been, not at his best. He's a tournament host that always has problems. Callum Hill is one that you mentioned there that I think that is trending in the right direction. He was kind of hard to leave out, but I think that, generally speaking, I think Kitayama would still be the pick of the bunch for me there. Catlin, like I said to you last week, I think he needs it to be tough. And obviously you were right in terms of picking that golf course. I thought he was going to play a little bit easier than it did. And that's what he needs, right? I don't think he needs this 28 under, 25 under scoring test. And that's the only reason I wouldn't like Catlin again, because I think he's still underrated in the market in terms of his win equity. But yeah, I think there's guys that we're going to go on to now that are beyond kind of in the 50s and 60 ranges that I just think are just as likely to win.
Yeah, and I can't wait for Catlin to make some major debuts. If we see Kiowa play hard, if you see Tori play very difficult, hopefully he can sneak into like maybe a top 20 finish. I'm excited for him. But the next golfer I'm going to is one still below 50. I'm actually going to have a pair here where this golfer progressively got better each day last week. He's progressively gotten better, his entire career as he's a young, South African left-hander. Garrick Higo is somebody that we have kept our eyes on closely for, as much as his pro career really has been, winning in Portugal early on to his career, winning on the Sunshine Tour at the Gary Player Country Club that you referenced earlier. He's just somebody when it comes to I think overall talents out there, he is quite the ball striker. If you watched a Sunday at all, the strokes gained that we didn't have the laser data that, normally about 365 offers to go shot by shot, but, we had about half the field submitting their stats afterwards. And, if you just watched, he was in position and just couldn't really putt it that great on Sunday. He had like a birdie on hole 10, which was lighting people up. I just thought he really hung hard around there, and to get the 40s on him, I thought is outstanding. So I'm in on Higo. And then, I don't have to go into the deepest of descriptions on the next bet. You know where it's coming. The odds are getting shorter though, Tom. I don't love it. I prefer when he's triple digits, coming off maybe a couple missed cuts and everyone's forgot about Guido, but now they're kind of hanging these 45s and we need them to get in the mix again. So, you mentioned the Oman Open. If you think about when Sammy Valimaki won that year, actually Guido was a little bit in that race. You forget about it with the Stone Valimaki playoff, but Guido, played quite well there. He was pretty strong again, the first leg of Kenya. The second leg, did not go his way. But I just, still 45-1, I'm okay with it. And, he can take it deep. We know he has done it many of times. So I'm in that pair to keep going before we are also in agreement on our next golfer in the 60s. So I'll let you talk about this one.
Yeah, and just before we went from Guido as well, as he played well, didn't he, in Saudi earlier in the year when we talked about him, had that third round 74 that kind of stopped him in his tracks. But if that Paspalum and grass thing does come to the fore again as well, and also strangely, Valderrama comes up an awful lot, to be a Spanish course and things like that. Completely different test, of course, but he's got the things in the right areas. But Kawamura is our next pick, Masahiro Kawamura. I just think that again, if you're talking about correlative form, then what he's done in Mauritius is just phenomenal. Really, he's just been absolutely superb there. He's got two top fives and tied 22nd finish. And when he was tied 22nd that year as well, he was second after 36 holes. So he really was just superb. And he just seems to turn up at these kind of events. He likes a bit of wind. He likes a test. I think he can go low scoring. We talked about we haven't just talked about the Aphrodite Hills last year, the Cyprus resort. Similar kind of test, I guess, in terms of it's built for the high handicap player, the tourist. And he comes second in that showdown event to Bob McIntyre, which people will forget about because Bob obviously is a very popular player and Kawamura isn't. So yeah, I think that he's got all the tools. I think that he was a decent price. I think he was 60 to 1. And look, this again, I think that maybe he needs to get more experience of winning, although he's slightly older. But he can certainly pay off that each way without a problem at all.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And sneaky enough, he's a small guy, but his off the tee game has been really strong for quite an extended period of time. He went through a stretch where he could not putt at all. That around the green game was really, really good. Off the tee was good, yet his putter was ice cold. He's kind of revamped that and just kind of a consistent track of ball striking for about 3 events in a row where he's gained a little bit over a stroke and a half per round. And that to me is just a continued trend of somebody I want to, back in this type of event. And you were exactly right. I mean, again, that showdown format was, not the prototypical type. So for him to finish second, Bob needed to really take it deep there late to win that event. With a birdie, I think he stuck it on 16 or 17 on that par three to put it away when it was very, very close. So yeah, Kawamura checks a lot of boxes. The next one for me that I think also is trending in the sense of iron play. It's a golfer who actually, if you think about what John Catlin did, Catlin's form wasn't screaming, victory. It was 42nd, 28th miscut. But what had really been trending for him was irons. Even in that last leg, when he missed the cut in Kenya, his irons were very, very strong. We were on in that week. We, got stuck with it and, that kind of paid off. And there's another golfer who had 100 to 1, I think fits that same trend. He went 19th, 12th and 10th in 3 straight events. And then he missed the cut last week, but despite missing the cut, Nino Bertazio led the field in strokes gained approach, gaining actually over 3 strokes per round in that short window. His off the tee wasn't great. There was some water last week, so potentially maybe put 1 or 2 in the water. Putter wasn't cooperating, but Bertazio's irons have been incredible for a month now. So to kind of get him off of that miscut, I'm not really working off course correlation for him. It's just matter of fact, irons trending even with the miscut. I love that. Triple digits. I will be on Nino.
Also, I kind of like the fact that he's played well in Portugal in the past, which is, again, it's not a resort course, but it's kind of a low scoring affair, which is going to be this type of thing. He's played well in Qatar, albeit it's like, of course, what we've been talking about. And just, Valderrama came up again, the same with Kawamura, tied 8th finish, and Potato was 11th. It can only help playing those kind of tests. You look at that front nine, there's no rough to worry about. You get bad angle, you're behind a tree or whatever. People are going to very much look at it and go, there's no rough, but there is going to be tests there. They wouldn't host a tournament if there wasn't. And again, he's a guy that you think can play well in the high winds. He's Scottish Open was his best finish in terms of OWGR. So yeah, I like it. He's played well in the PGA Championship on Wentworth. So yeah, he's had some big finishes and big events, and he's a guy that probably hasn't fulfilled his potential. I think it's pretty fair to say. That's why he can still get the 100 to 1 number, because you think about people like Renato Paratore and people like that, he was kind of thought of in a similar ilk and just hasn't quite got there yet.
Yep. Agreed. And again, 25-1 for a place there, I think that's a very fair each way hit that you can look into. So yeah, he's next up for me. I'll pass it for you. I know we each have a pair of long shots as well this week.
Yeah, so my first one that's up is Grant Forrest, and this is purely down to the correlative form. He's played well twice in Mauritius, fourth and seventh. He was 10th in Oman. He's been 19th and 27th in Qatar and Saudi, respectively. And he also played well. He came second in the Andalusia match play on the Challenge Tour as well. And I just think that there's too much there to ignore. He's been a steady. He's a guy that makes a lot of shots up with his putter, which is obviously not something that you want to rely on because it means you're not hitting the ball incredibly well. Which we tend to obviously go the other way, don't we? We look to guys that are great with the irons, great with the driver. But he's got it in the right places. Mauritius and Oman form is certainly fills me with confidence. I mean, he was 175-1 here earlier. I think he's probably 150 now, but that's plenty big enough for me. And I think he's certainly capable of getting an H-man.
Yeah, and he's kind of just pops up in leaderboards. To your point, can take it quite low. The Scottish background, yeah, I think for us, the 61st last week, I don't think is a fair representation of how he really played. He was, top 20 early into the weekend. So I'm okay with that. And then the one I'm going to start with is Austin Batista again. Austin Batista opened at 250-1 on 365. That was immediately bet down to 175, 150s. I'm okay with any of it. I think 150 plus is very fair. Get that each way, maybe a 40-1 each way if you can. I mean, this kid, unbelievable last week. I mean, to me, that was all. Of course, Catlin was, unbelievable too, but I just have a special place in my heart for these type of golfers, ones that we roster on the Outlaw Tour, ones that are grinders on the mini tours, ones that, don't have these spots given to them. They have to earn them. And thankfully sponsor put them up there and you get inside the top 10 and you're one of the top 2 that's not exempt into next week. And that was him and Nikolai Højgaard. And they get those spots in for this week. And that's how you roll with it. That's how Will Zalatoris is literally in the Masters because he took it and ran with it. And, that these are the opportunities that these kids can come across of, and it can be life-changing. So for him to make 2 cuts in his 2 European Tour chances and one of them be a 7th place finish after opening with a 74, to come back and finish like that, birdie on, I think it was birdie par to finish, to get inside there, exactly what he needed. He was 1 stroke away from cashing a 125-1 each way. He was 500-1 last week. The top 20 was 14s to 18s out there. Just such a fan of the kid. Obviously can birdie in bunches. And if it's going to be more of a resort style course, probably similar potentially to some things that he might have played here compared to the test he had last week. I love it. So I'm back on Batista.
And that was what I was going to say, is that he's kind of used to playing these golf courses. That is I don't want to say the level and the standard he plays at, because that's just kind of derogatory to what he has been playing, but that's the kind of test that he plays. They talk about even on the Corn Ferry Tour, you play these events where they're just so low scoring and so wide open that it's kind of just a birdie fest. It's the same with these, outlaw events, same with the mini tour events out in America. And the other European Tour event that he played in was the South African Open. That was actually at the Gary Blair Country Club that you mentioned as well. So, his very limited experience on the European Tour has brought into one of those golf courses, and he finished tied 7th last week. The only concern with him that I have, that I've kind of got with all of the guys that played last week, right, and it's just a good time to mention it, not him particularly, is that they've now gone from freezing cold temperatures and really, really tough to pretty warm and should be really, really easy. And that's kind of a difficult adjustment to make. And I actually think, in his respect, it would be an easier transition for him because he's going back to what he's kind of used to, where some of these guys, they grind out in these colder, harder events all year round, and the hot, slightly easier events are not what they're accustomed to. And some of them, like a John Catlin, would prosper in the tougher event, and his kind of skills would be negated in this type of event, whereas I think Batista can come to life here.
It's why Guido probably didn't go last week. He's just next level. You know what I mean?
He's clever. Yeah, he knows what he's doing, doesn't he?
Yeah. So who's your final long shot?
Matthew Pavon, and this is purely down to the correlative form. 17th, 2nd, and 5th in Mauritius. I said to you earlier that Karamura was second after 36 holes. I was lying. It was Pavon. And then he was tied 11th in Saudi and tied 35th in Qatar as well. And that tied 35th in Qatar is his only decent finish really this year. So it just shows that when the golf course suits, if it's the high winds, if it's the paspalum greens, if it's the low scoring affair, he just kind of fits that bill. And to me, at 200 to 1, he doesn't really, like I said to you last week when you picked Batista, it doesn't have to be an awful lot that you like, right? It just has to be, there's got to be something that alludes you to picking him. Those are the correlative forms, those are the correlative courses, and he matches up. So 200 to 1, I can certainly see him. I don't think there's much win equity there because he's not shown it so far in his career, but there's no reason to think that you can't cash that each one.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, again, the European tour is a wild one and we see it week in and week out. And that's why I don't have qualms with a lot of picks that pretty much anybody has, because the weeks can be wild. You can turn a miscut into a victory like, John Catlin was able to do. And I'm going to go out on a real limb on this next one here. Okay. I've spent the last 24 hours translating tweets from Spanish to English, trying to understand who this golfer is. That's some of my things I do on Sunday. You're enjoying seeing who these invitations are. Who are these golfers? Are guys that I like, Samuel Del Val, Scott Fernandez, some of these Spanish guys that are going to get an opportunity here. And I come across a golfer that I've never heard of before, guy by the name of Oscar Sanchez. And Oscar Sanchez is 43 years old, not your classic amateur. And you mentioned, do you play club pros? Do you have familiarity with these guys? I don't know if he's a club pro or not, truthfully, but what I do know is he is the best mid-am in Spain. So used to pursue professional golf in the past. And now he's came back mid-am. And you can go to his world, the World Amateur Golf Ranking page. You can see he's played 3 events in the last 2 years. Second place in Portugal at the mid-am there. 16th in the mid-am European, 4th. But if I dive a little bit deeper, and again, the Gran Canaria Islands aren't normal Spain, of course. We're at a different part of Spain. So he is a local to the area. And if you type in and try to tweet and try to find, does he have any connection to this? Well, he does. He actually won an event at this course. It says he made up 6 strokes over the final 3 holes to have a brilliant victory at this same course. Awesome. Okay. So then I find that. And then I see just 4 weeks ago in March, there was another mid-am event. I don't think it was at this course. Again, the translations are very difficult on Twitter. However, he won another mid-am event where he opened with a 65 and then he shot 70 in round 2 to win by 5 strokes, 6 birdies in each round. Again, 1,000 to 1. You don't have to sign up for all that much. Throw a couple pennies each way and we can have a sweat with our boy Oscar here. So I'm going to be on him for the top 20. This is our deep shot of the week. We're getting into 7 golfers, but I just couldn't leave off Oscar after all that analysis and time I spent. It was just worth investing at that point. So please go put the paychecks on our boy and we'll have a big week again.
See, so last week when you were talking about Austin Batista, I could follow the logic, right? And this week you put into our group that you were picking Oscar Sanchez. And I had to Google him, right? I'm not going to lie to you. I had to check him out. And I think personally that he's played on the European tour in 4 or 5 occasions and he's been terrible, but I could be wrong. I mean, at 43 years of age, it's probably the guy that pursued it 20 years ago and didn't make it. But if he wins on this golf course, then why does it matter? He's only got to get into the top 10 to really get you excited. Look, I'm not ruling anything out. After you put out Batista last week, I'm just going to bet him. If he loses, then so be it. I'll just bill it to you as an invoice. It's fine.
Yeah, 100%. And then we'll just send it to Pat and we'll go full circle. We'll be completely fine with it.
But
okay. Yes. But run us back down your card one more time, Tom.
Yep. So I've got Kurt Kitayama. I've got Basiro Karamura. I've got Grant Forrest and Matthew Pavon as well. There's some dodgy pronunciations in there. It is late at night in London, England, or Kent, England, as it may be. And I haven't got the energy to put them right.
Hey, you know what you have the energy to do, though? You got yourself a haircut last week, and you're looking good on our stream. So shout out to you for that and those opening up for you. I know it's been a hard time. So I'll run through my card here. Kurt Kitayama, we're both on that. Garrick Higo, and I know those are 2 of Pat's favorites. So he was fired up when those odds came out for both of those 2. So I know he's on those. Guido Migliazzi, 45-1. Kawamura with you, 66. Nino Bertazio, 100. Austin Batista, 175. And then Oscar Sanchez, 1,000-1 each way. Top 20 for all the monies, folks. This is European Tour picks and bets. And if you want to find the audio format, you can subscribe to that, being Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, the mix. If you just Google that on any of your podcast platforms, feel free to subscribe, give us a rate and review. We would love that. And we just really appreciate the support. Another great 3-week stretch ahead of us on the European Tour. Thank you, Tom. Where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me at Tom Jacobs93 on Twitter and the Lost for Words podcast on all your streaming sites. And if Oscar Sanchez does win the golf this week, then I will get a t-shirt printed with his face on it, and we will give it away as a prize in the next show.
We might need tattoos too. So
we can definitely get tattoos.
Perfect. Well, good luck to everybody this week, and cheers.